one of our questions getting into this is communication between an organization and then the general public. And one area that we at NextGen have noticed is a disconnect between right out of the gate at entry level. And it is a disconnect of the general public has a very different perception, skill set of what an entry level position is required of them versus a contractor hiring. So when we get asked to find, well, I'm looking for an entry level project coordinator, and they say, but they have to have 3 years experience. But then that's not entry level, right? So there's a disconnect right out of the gate. So in your organization, are you seeing miscommunication or disconnect between the level of a role and then the hiring manager's expectations of that role? And I'm going to go, Diane, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, there is. It's always easier for our hiring managers to hire people with experience, right? So they don't have to train them as much. They can, in my consulting industry, they're more billable to a client quicker. So that's their number one thing, is how can we get their utilization up to 75, 80% to clients. If they hire a grad, it's just going to take them longer. So we are pushing them to hire more grads, even though it's a balance, because we know that then we're not meeting our goals of the company in terms of utilization goals. But we are pushing because that's our only option.
So even at like a mid-level and intermediate level, do you still see a disconnect of what a hiring manager expects from an intermediate engineer versus what actually an intermediate engineer has under their portfolio, their repertoire, their work experience? Is there a disconnect there as well?
Yeah, they even if 3 years experience, they expect them to be on their own and independent, which isn't always the case. They're still going to need guidance from a more senior engineer or a project manager or a functional leader. So they just want them to be independent as quick as possible.
So
it's easier, right? But that's not really the best. And there's less of them. There's less of those intermediate talent in the business. Everybody's fighting over those same intermediate people because they're at the right cost. They're not too expensive yet. And so it's just easier.